The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched far beyond what human eyes could see. Thousands of alien beings filled the massive space, their voices creating a sound like distant thunder. Ambassador Hyunwoo Park walked slowly toward the center stage, his black diplomatic suit making him look tiny among the giant creatures around him. Hyunwoo had spent 20 years preparing for this moment. Today, the council would vote on whether humans could become full members. For 50 years, his people had worked hard to prove they were peaceful and safe. They had followed every rule, signed every treaty, and answered every question the aliens asked. Behind him walked Sojin Kim, a small woman with sharp eyes who knew more about alien cultures than anyone else on Earth. Next to her was Taiman, Lee, whose job was to make trade deals that helped both humans and aliens. They looked calm, but Hyunwoo could see the worry in their faces. "Remember," Sojin whispered as they reached their seats, "we are the good humans. We are not like the scary stories they tell about Deathworld species." The council chamber was built for beings much larger than humans. The ceiling was so high that clouds formed near the top. The walls showed moving pictures of peaceful alien worlds, green gardens, crystal cities, and calm seas under purple skies. Everything was designed to remind everyone that the council valued peace above all else. High Arbiter Zenthikar rose from his golden throne. He was 12 feet tall with blue skin that glowed softly in the dim light. His forearms moved in patterns that meant attention in the old council language. The thunder of voices stopped at once. "Today we decide the fate of the species called humans," Zenthikar said, his voice reaching every corner of the huge room. "They come from a world called Earth, which our scientists have studied carefully." A hologram appeared in the center of the hall. It showed Earth spinning slowly, blue oceans, white clouds, and green-brown continents. To human eyes it looked beautiful. But Hyunwoo heard gasps and worried sounds from the alien crowd. "This world has weather that kills," continued Zenthikar. "Storms with winds that can destroy cities, ground that shakes and breaks apart, mountains that explode with liquid fire, oceans with waves tall as buildings. How do any creatures survive in such a place?" Councillor Kethamara of the Sindari Coalition stood up. She looked like a tall, thin bird covered in silver feathers. Her voice was high and sharp like breaking glass. "High Arbiter," she said, "we must remember that creatures from death worlds are dangerous. They become strong by fighting their terrible worlds every day. The humans may look small and weak, but their planet has made them into something we do not understand." Murmurs of agreement came from many parts of the hall. Hyunwoo felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his face calm. This was the fear they had fought against for 50 years. Admiral Velthek of the Veltar Consortium spoke next. He was a creature that looked like a giant octopus made of metal and flesh. His many arms moved as he talked, making clicking sounds. "The humans have shown us only peace," Velthek said, but his tone was cold. "They follow our rules. They trade fairly. They help us with our problems, but I ask you, why does a species from such a terrible world act so nice?" More worried sounds came from the crowd. Hyunwoo knew this was the real problem. The aliens could not understand why humans were not more violent. They thought it was a trick. From the human section, Captain Jinho Nam watched everything with careful eyes. He wore the blue uniform of the Earth Defense Fleet, but no weapons. The Council. Rules did not allow weapons in the chamber. Jinho's job was to show that humans were strong enough to protect themselves, but not so strong that they scared anyone. Jinho knew secrets that even Hyunwoo did not know. Hidden in the outer parts of the solar system were military bases that could protect Earth from any attack. Human scientists had studied alien technology for 50 years and built ships that could fight if needed. But the aliens must never know this. Earth's safety depended on appearing weak enough to be ignored, but strong enough to be respected. "Honored council members," Hyunwoo said as he stood up. His voice was carried by machines to every part of the hall. "My people ask only for the chance to join your great civilization. We offer our knowledge, our friendship, and our promise to follow the laws of peace." He touched a control on his wrist, and new holograms appeared. These showed human cities, clean, green places where people worked and played together. They showed human scientists helping alien researchers. They showed human doctors treating sick aliens who had come to Earth for help. We know our world is dangerous, Hyunwoo continued. But it has not made us into monsters. It has taught us to work together, to help each other, and to never give up hope. These are the gifts we bring to the council. So-jin stepped forward, with a small device in her hands. We have prepared cultural exchange programs with 47 different species, she said. We want to learn from you and we want to share what we have learned. Taemin showed trade agreements that would help alien businesses. Human colonies can provide raw materials that many worlds need, he said. We ask for nothing but fair payment and the right to be part of the galactic community. For 3 hours the humans answered questions. Why did they have so many different languages? How did they survive their planet's ice ages? Why did they fight wars against each other? Each answer was carefully prepared to show humans as normal people who just happened to come from a difficult world. Finally, Zenthkar called for the vote. Green lights meant yes, red lights meant no. The hall filled with thousands of colored lights as each species made their choice. Hyunwoo held his breath as the machines counted the votes. Around him, the alien voices grew quiet. Everyone waited. The motion passes, Zenthkar announced. Humans are granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council. The word provisional hit Hyunwoo like a cold wind, not full membership. They would have to prove themselves again and again. Zenthkar continued reading the conditions. Human military expansion is limited to current levels. Cultural observers will be placed on all human worlds to ensure compliance with Council values. Trade will be monitored to prevent dangerous technology transfers. These restrictions will be reviewed in 10 years. The humans smiled and bowed politely, but inside they felt the sting of being treated like children. Still, it was better than being rejected completely. As the session ended and aliens began to leave, Kethmara approached the human group. Her silver feathers rustled with worry. Ambassador Park, she said quietly, your people puzzle me. No species from a death world acts as you do. I hope for everyone's sake that you truly are what you appear to be. Hyunwoo met her sharp gaze calmly. We are exactly what we appear to be, counselor. We are humans who want peace. But as he spoke those words, Hyunwoo wondered how long that peace would last. He had seen the fear in alien eyes, heard the suspicion in their voices. They wanted humans to be monsters so badly that Hyunwoo sometimes worried they might create the very thing they feared. For now, though, humanity would continue to play nice. They would follow the rules, accept the restrictions, and prove they could be trusted. It was a game they had played for 50 years, and they had become very good at it. None of them knew that the game was about to change forever. 2 years had passed since humans joined the Galactic Council. Dr. Yuna Choi stood in her laboratory on New Seoul, looking through her microscope at something that should not exist. The sample came from the ruins of Harmony Station, a peaceful research base that had been attacked 3 days ago. Yuna was a xenobiologist. She studied alien life forms. For 5 years she had worked with creatures from dozens of different worlds, learning how their bodies worked. She knew alien DNA like other people knew their own names. And right now, she was looking at something that made her blood run cold. This can't be right, she whispered to herself. She ran the test again, then a third time. Each time the results were the same. The attackers had left behind traces of their DNA on the destroyed station. The official report said humans had attacked Harmony Station without warning, killing everyone inside. But the DNA she was looking at was not human. It was Veltar. Yuna's hands shook as she saved her data to a secure drive. The Veltar were one of the most powerful species in the Council. They controlled trade routes across half the galaxy. If they were involved in the attack, it meant someone was trying to frame humans for a crime they did not commit. She tried to send a message to Earth, but the communication channels were blocked. Strange. She tried different frequencies, but none of them worked. It was as if someone was jamming all signals from New Seoul. On the other side of the galaxy, Dong-Hyun Kang was having the worst day of his life. He was a trader who carried goods between human and alien worlds. His ship, the Lucky Star, was small and fast, perfect for moving cargo quickly. Dong-Hyun had been delivering medical supplies to a research station near the Rex border when he saw something impossible. 3 ships with human markings were attacking the station, but Dong-Hyun knew those ships were not human. He had been around human vessels his whole life. These ships moved wrong, sounded wrong, and fired weapons that humans did not have. He watched in horror as the fake human ships destroyed the research station. Then they turned toward him. Dong-Hyun did the only thing he could do. He ran. His ship was fast, but the attackers were faster. They chased him through 3 star systems before he managed to hide in an asteroid field. For 6 hours, he waited, while they searched for him. When they finally gave up and left, Dong-Hyun tried to contact Earth. The response he got made his heart sink. Earth Command told him he was lying. They said no human ships were in that sector. They said he must have been confused or scared, but Dong-Hyun knew what he had seen. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, Admiral Velthek was giving a speech. His metal arms moved smoothly as he spoke, and his voice carried sadness and anger. "My fellow council members," he said, "we have been betrayed. The humans we welcomed into our community have shown their true nature. They attack without warning. They kill innocent researchers. They break every law of civilized behavior." Holographic images appeared above the crowd. They showed the wreckage of 3 different stations, all destroyed in the past week. Bodies of alien researchers floated in space. Equipment worth millions of credits had been smashed or stolen. "The evidence is clear," Velthek continued. "Human DNA at every attack site, human weapon signatures, human ship debris. They have been planning this for months, maybe years. While we trusted them, they prepared for war." High Arbiter Zenthkar looked older than he had 2 years ago. His blue skin was darker, and his forearms moved with tired motions. "This is a grave situation," Zenthkar said. "If the humans are truly responsible for these attacks, then we have made a terrible mistake in trusting them." Councillor Kethamara spoke from her seat, her silver feathers bright with anger. "I warned you all 2 years ago. Deathworld species cannot be trusted. They are born killers who hide behind false smiles and pretty words." More voices joined in. Representative after representative stood up to condemn the humans. Some demanded immediate action. Others called for investigation. But most seemed to believe that humans had always been planning to betray the council. Ambassador Hyunwoo Park stood alone at the human station. His face was pale and his hand shook slightly as he spoke. "Honored council members," he said, "I swear to you that humans are not responsible for these attacks. We have never authorized military action against any council member. We have no ships in the areas where these attacks happened." "Then explain the evidence," Velthek demanded. "Explain the human DNA. Explain the human weapons." "I cannot explain it," Hyunwoo admitted. "But I know my people. We are not killers. We came here seeking peace." "Peace?" Kethmara's voice was sharp as broken glass. "You came here seeking weakness, to exploit. You studied our defenses while pretending to be friends. You learned our secrets while planning our destruction." So Jin Kim stood next to Hyunwoo, her face full of desperate hope. "Please," she said, "give us time to investigate. Let us prove our innocence. There must be an explanation." But the council was in no mood for explanations. Fear and anger filled the great hall. Many species had friends or family members who had died in the attacks. They wanted justice, and they wanted it now. Zenthkar called for order, but his voice was weak. "The council will vote on emergency measures," he announced. "All human ships will be impounded immediately. All human colonies will be placed under council oversight. The human government has 48 hours to surrender all military assets and submit to permanent occupation." The vote was not even close. Species after species chose to support the emergency measures. Only a few voted against, and they were quickly shouted down by the majority. Hyunwoo felt the world collapse around him. "You are making a mistake," he said quietly. "We are not your enemies." "No," Velthek replied. You are worse than enemies. You are traitors who pretended to be friends. As the council session ended, Hyunwoo tried one last time to make contact with Earth. The message he sent was simple. They know. Prepare for war. But even as he sent the message, Hyunwoo wondered if it was already too late. The council had made its decision. In 48 hours, a fleet would leave for Earth. They expected to find a small, weak planet that would surrender without a fight. They were about to discover how wrong they were. On New Seoul, Dr. Yoona Choi finally managed to break through the communication jam. Her message to Earth was urgent. The Veltar are framing us, I have proof. The DNA evidence is fake. Someone is trying to start a war. But her message arrived too late. By the time it reached Earth, the Council fleet was already moving toward human space. The largest military force in galactic history was heading toward a small blue planet that had spent 50 years pretending to be helpless. The humans had played nice for half a century. They had followed every rule, accepted every restriction, and swallowed every insult. They had bent over backwards to prove they were peaceful and civilized. Now they were about to discover what happened when peaceful people were forced to fight for their lives. Admiral Velthek stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars stream past. He was confident this would be an easy victory. Humans were just Deathworld primitives who had gotten lucky. Their technology was stolen, their tactics were simple, and their spirit would break the moment they faced real opposition. He had no idea that he was about to awaken something that had been sleeping for 50 years. Something that had been waiting patiently behind a mask of diplomacy and good manners. Something that was about to remind the galaxy why Deathworld species were feared throughout the universe. The humans had tried to play nice. Now they were about to show the galaxy what happened when nice stopped working. President Ji-Hai Han stood before the United Earth Assembly, her face hard as stone. Behind her, the giant screen showed the Council fleet moving toward Earth, over 3,000 ships, the largest military force in galactic history. The representatives from every human nation sat in silence, waiting for her words. For 50 years, Ji-Hai began, her voice carrying across the assembly hall. We have played by their rules. We smiled when they insulted us. We accepted their restrictions. We proved again and again that we were peaceful and civilized. She paused, looking at each face in the crowd. And what did it get us? They still fear us. They still hate us. And now they come to destroy us based on lies and fake evidence. The president's voice grew stronger. I am done being nice. I am done pretending to be weak. If they want to see what Deathworld humans can really do, then let them see. She pressed a button on her podium. The screen behind her changed to show something that made the entire assembly gasp. It was a map of the solar system, but not the one the aliens knew. This map showed dozens of hidden military bases, weapon platforms, and ships that had been kept secret for 50 years. We are not the helpless primitives they think we are, Ji-Hai said. We have been preparing for this day since we first met them. We hoped it would never come, but we were ready. In the deep space station called Titan Base, Colonel Sung-ho watched the same speech on his screen. Around him, hundreds of soldiers and technicians worked at their stations. For 20 years, they had maintained this secret base in the outer solar system. The aliens had never detected it. All units, this is Colonel An. He spoke into his communicator. Project Cerberus is now active. All stealth systems are to remain online. Prepare for combat operations. Across the solar system, hidden bases came to life. On the dark side of the moon, weapon platforms emerged from fake mining operations. In the asteroid belt, ships that had been disguised as space rocks powered up their engines. Near Jupiter, a massive construction facility that the aliens thought was a gas mining station revealed its true purpose. It was a shipyard that had been building warships in secret. Commander Min Ji-Yu sat in her small scout ship, watching the Council fleet approach Earth. Her ship was invisible to alien sensors, using technology that humans had developed by studying every alien vessel that had ever visited their system. Command, this is Shadow 7, she reported. I count 3,200 enemy ships. They are arranged in standard council formation. They expect no resistance. Minji smiled coldly. For 10 years, she had been part of the Stealth Reconnaissance Corps. She had flown missions to every major alien world, mapping their defenses and studying their tactics. The aliens never knew she was there. Shadow 7, this is Command, came the reply. Proceed to Proxima Station and coordinate with Captain Bay. It's time to show them what real warfare looks like. Proxima Station was humanity's farthest outpost, orbiting the star closest to Earth. It looked like a simple research station, but Captain Wu Jinbei knew better. He had commanded the station for 5 years, and every day he had prepared for this moment. All hands, this is the captain, he announced over the station's communication system. We have incoming hostiles. They think we are helpless scientists. Let's show them how wrong they are. The first Veltar ships arrived at Proxima Station expecting to find a small research base with no defenses. Instead, they found Captain Bay's destroyer Inchin waiting for them. The human ship was half the size of the alien vessels, but Bay was not worried. Target the lead ship, Bay ordered. Full power to weapons. The Incheon opened fire with weapons the aliens had never seen before. Human railguns threw metal projectiles at incredible speeds, tearing through alien shields like paper. Laser arrays that had been disguised as communication equipment burned holes in enemy hulls. Admiral Velthek watched from his flagship as 3 of his ships were destroyed in the first minute of battle. How is this possible? He demanded. The humans have primitive weapons. His tactical officer was pale with shock. Sir, those are not primitive weapons. Our shields are useless against their projectile weapons, and their lasers are more powerful than anything in our fleet. On Proxima Station, engineer Hairin Song was putting the final touches on her special project. She had been working on it for months, waiting for the right moment to use it. Captain Bay, she called over the communication system. I'm ready to activate the fusion surprise, Bay grinned. Do it, Engineer Song. Show them what happens when you threaten human civilians. Hairin had turned the station's main fusion reactor into a weapon, not a bomb, something much worse. She had modified it to create a directed energy pulse that would overload every electronic system within 100,000 kilometers. Fusion surprise activating in 10 seconds, she announced. All human ships, activate your hardened systems now. The pulse erupted from Proxima Station like a miniature star. It spread outward at the speed of light, invisible but deadly to electronic systems. The Veltar ships, with their delicate alien technology, were completely unprepared. Every alien ship in the area lost power at once. Their engines died. Their weapons stopped working. Their life support systems failed. The proud Veltar battle group was reduced to helpless metal boxes floating in space. This is Captain Bay to all enemy vessels, Wu Jin announced on the emergency frequency. You have 10 minutes to abandon ship before we finish you off. This is your only warning. The few Veltar who escaped in lifeboats watched in horror as human ships destroyed their entire fleet. The humans moved through space like they owned it, their weapons tearing apart alien ships with terrifying efficiency. Admiral Velthek was one of the few who survived. As his escape pod drifted toward a human rescue ship, he realized the terrible truth. The humans had not been hiding their weakness. They had been hiding their strength. Send a message to the council, he told his communication officer. Tell them we have made a terrible mistake. The humans are not primitive. They are not weak. They are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and we have just made them angry. Back on Earth, President Ji Hai Han received the first battle reports. The engagement at Proxima Station had been a complete victory. Not a single human had been killed while the alien fleet had been destroyed. This is just the beginning, she told her military advisors. They wanted to see what Deathworld humans could do. Now they will learn that we are not just survivors. We are apex predators who have been holding back for 50 years. Colonel An activated the next phase of Project Cerberus. Across human space, hidden ships began to move toward their targets. They had studied alien tactics for decades. They knew every weakness, every blind spot, every fear. The aliens had always wondered why humans from such a dangerous world were so peaceful. Now they would learn the answer. Humans were peaceful because they chose to be. When that choice was taken away, they became something far worse than any natural predator. They became thinking, planning, vengeful killers who would not stop until every enemy was destroyed. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you forced Deathworlders to stop playing nice. Commander Min Ji-yu watched the alien fleet retreating toward Council space. Her orders were simple. Follow them, learn their routes, and prepare for the next phase of the war. Shadow 7 to command, she reported. The enemy is running. Permission to begin deep reconnaissance operations. Granted, came the reply. Show them that there is nowhere in the galaxy they can hide from us. As Minji's ship disappeared into the darkness between stars, she smiled. The hunting season had begun, and humans were the ultimate hunters. The aliens had created their own monsters. Now they would face the consequences. 6 months after the battle at Proxima Station, the galaxy had learned to fear the sound of human ships. Admiral Kyung-Soo Im stood on the bridge of the battleship Seoul, watching another alien world burn in the distance. This was the 15th Veltar colony his fleet had destroyed, and he felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Sir, his tactical officer reported, all military targets on Veltar Prime 7 have been eliminated. The civilian population is requesting permission to surrender. Kyung-Soo looked at the planet through his view screen. Once it had been a beautiful world with crystal cities and floating gardens. Now, smoke rose from a dozen craters where Veltar military bases used to be. Accept their surrender, he said. But make sure they understand the terms. No military forces, no weapons production, no communication with other Veltar worlds without our permission. This was the new way of human warfare. They did not kill civilians, but they made sure that every enemy world knew exactly who was in charge. On Earth, Dr. Chan Woo-oh worked in a laboratory that did not officially exist. For 30 years, he had been a peaceful researcher studying alien biology. Now he used that same knowledge to create weapons that could kill any species in the galaxy. The Rex nervous system is particularly vulnerable to this compound, he explained to his team. It will cause complete paralysis within minutes, but it only affects their species. Humans and other species will not be harmed. Dr. O did not enjoy this work, but he understood its necessity. The aliens had forced humans to become monsters. If that was what they wanted, then humans would be the most efficient monsters in the galaxy. Major Aira Shin floated through the corridors of a Sindari space station, her power armor making no sound in the vacuum. Behind her, 19 other members of the Reaper Corps moved like ghosts through the darkness. The Sindari had thought their station was safe. It was hidden in an asteroid field, protected by stealth technology and automated defenses. But the Reapers had been designed for exactly this kind of mission. Target the command center, Aira whispered into her helmet communicator. Remember, we want their computers intact. We need their intelligence data. The Reapers burst into the command center like a nightmare. Their weapons fired small darts that delivered Dr. O's paralyzing compounds. Within seconds, every Sindari in the room was helpless but alive. This is Major Shin to Admiral Im, she reported. Target secured. Downloading their databases now. The Rex Empire had always been proud of their warrior culture. They believed that honor in battle was the highest virtue. When humans began attacking their worlds, the Rex were confident they could defeat these soft Deathworlders in honest combat. General Subin Ryu accepted their challenge with a cold smile. The Rex fleet arrived at the human colony of New Busan, expecting a glorious battle. Instead, they found something that broke their warrior spirits completely. Attention, Rex fleet, General Ryu broadcast on all frequencies. You want to fight? Good. Let's fight. The human ships attacked in ways that violated every rule of honorable warfare that the Rex knew. They used psychological warfare broadcasts that filled Rex communication channels with the sounds of their own children crying. They fired weapons that did not kill, but caused terrible pain. They used holographic projectors to make their ships appear as giant monsters from Rex mythology. Boram Kwan sat in her psychological warfare center, watching the effects of her work on the enemy fleet. She had studied Rex culture for years, learning their fears and weaknesses. Increase the nightmare frequency on Channel 7, she ordered, and add the sound of Hrek's mothers calling for their lost children. The proud Hrek's warriors began to break down. Some fled. Others turned their weapons on themselves rather than face the horror that humans had created. The few who tried to fight found that human weapons could penetrate their strongest armor like it was made of paper. "This is not honorable combat," the Hrek's fleet commander screamed over the communication channels. "This is torture." "You wanted to see what Deathworld warriors could do," General Ryu replied calmly. "This is what we do. We win." Meanwhile, Captain Seo-Jun Park led the deep strike missions that were becoming legend throughout the galaxy. His ship, the Ghostwind, could go places that other vessels could not even imagine. "We're approaching the Council's secret weapons facility," he reported to Earth Command. "It's hidden inside a gas giant, just like our intelligence said." The facility had been built in the crushing depths of a gas giant's atmosphere, where the pressure would destroy any normal ship. But human ships were not normal. They had been designed by people who understood what it meant to survive in impossible conditions. Park's team destroyed the facility and escaped with its research data. The Council had been working on weapons to use against Deathworld species. Now those weapons belonged to Earth. All across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. Human forces appeared where they should not be able to go, destroyed what should not be able to be destroyed, and vanished before enemy reinforcements could arrive. The Galactic Council tried to fight back, but they were used to civilized warfare, with rules and limitations. Humans followed no rules except victory. They fought like their world had taught them to fight, with creativity, adaptation, and absolute ruthlessness. Ambassador Jae-Sung Lim received a communication from the Sindari coalition. They wanted to negotiate peace. "There can be no peace," he told them coldly. "You chose war when you believed lies about us. You chose war when you voted to destroy our worlds. Now you will live with the consequences." The Sindari representative, a bird-like creature with silver feathers, pleaded desperately. "Please, we were deceived. The Veltar showed us false evidence. We did not know the truth." "Ignorance is not an excuse," Jae-Sung replied. "You could have investigated. You could have listened to our protests. Instead, you chose to believe we were monsters. Now we are exactly what you feared." On Veltar Prime, the homeworld of the species that had started the war, Admiral Velthek watched human ships appear in his system. There were only 12 of them, but he knew that was enough. "This is Admiral Velthek to the human fleet," he broadcast. "We surrender. We will give you anything you want. Please do not destroy our world." Captain Seo-Jun Park's voice came back cold and emotionless. "You should have thought of that before you framed us for crimes we did not commit. Your military installations have 10 minutes to surrender. After that, we start shooting." The Veltar military gave up without firing a shot. They had seen what happened to species that fought humans. The lucky ones died quickly. The unlucky ones lived to serve as examples. As human forces took control of Veltar Prime, the galaxy finally understood what they had done. They had taken a peaceful species and turned them into the ultimate predators. Humans did not just win battles. They won wars so completely that their enemies begged for mercy. The Council's grand alliance was falling apart. Some species fled to the far edges of the galaxy. Others surrendered and hoped for mercy. A few tried to keep fighting, but they learned quickly that humans had spent 50 years studying alien weaknesses. President Ji-Hai Han received reports from every front. The war was going exactly as planned. Human forces had destroyed or captured every major alien military installation. The galaxy's trade routes were under human control. The species that had voted to destroy Earth now lived in fear of human retaliation. "How many more worlds do we need to conquer?" asked her military advisor. Ji-Hai looked at the galaxy map, where red dots showed human-controlled systems. Already they controlled more space than any empire in galactic history. "All of them," she said simply. "They wanted monsters. We will give them monsters who rule with absolute authority. The galaxy will learn that there are consequences for threatening human civilians." The hunt was nearly over. Soon, Every species in the galaxy would kneel before human authority. And they would. Remember forever that this was what happened when you forced Deathworlders to stop being nice. 5 years after the first human ship opened fire at Proxima Station, the galaxy was a very different place. President In-Ho John stood in his office on Terra Station, looking out at the stars that now belonged to humanity. The massive space station had been built from the wreckage of the old Galactic Council headquarters, and it sent a clear message to every species in the galaxy. "The Herex delegation is here to see you, sir," his aide announced. In-Ho nodded. "Send them in, and make sure they wait in the outer chamber for 10 minutes first. Let them think about why they're here." The new president was not the same kind of leader as those who had come before. He had been chosen because he understood that ruling a galaxy required strength, not diplomacy. The humans had tried diplomacy for 50 years. Now they ruled through power. Fleet Admiral Yoon Young Kim commanded the Terran Navy from her flagship, the massive battleship Indomitable. She had once been a peaceful engineer who designed civilian spacecraft. The war had changed her into something harder and more dangerous. "Admiral," her communication officer reported, "we're receiving a distress call from the Zephyrian sector. Pirates are attacking civilian transports." Yoon Young smiled coldly. "Send the Fourth Fleet to deal with it. Make sure there are no survivors among the pirates. The galaxy needs to remember that human space is protected." This was how the Terran hegemony worked. Species that accepted human rule were protected absolutely. Those who caused trouble were eliminated without mercy. It was simple, effective, and fair in its own brutal way. Commander Gitai No led the Pacification Corps, the force responsible for maintaining order on conquered worlds. His job was to make sure that former Council species understood their new place in the galaxy. On the former Sindari homeworld, he met with the planet's new leaders. They were locals who had accepted human authority in exchange for the right to govern their own people. "Your production quotas for this quarter have been met," Gitai told them. "Your people are to be congratulated. As a reward, we will allow you to increase trade with neighboring systems." The Sindari leaders bowed their heads in gratitude. They had learned that cooperation with humans brought prosperity, while resistance brought destruction. It was a lesson that every species in the galaxy had learned, but not everyone had accepted the new order. In the deep space between galaxies, a secret meeting was taking place. Keth Mara, the former council member, sat with representatives from a dozen species who still dreamed of freedom. "The humans cannot watch every system at once," she said, her silver feathers dim with age and worry. "If we work together, we can build a weapon that will destroy their ability to rule." The weapon they planned was ancient, dating back to the first galactic wars millions of years ago. It was a device that could destroy every electronic system in a star system, making space travel impossible. If they could activate it in the Sol system, they could trap the humans on Earth forever. "The weapon is hidden on the dead world of Kethmore," explained Dr. Vexlack, a scientist who had spent his life studying ancient technology. "It will take months to reactivate, but once it works, we can use it to free the galaxy." Major Hyojin Bai and her infiltration team had been tracking the rebel group for 6 months. They moved through space like shadows using technology that made them invisible to every sensor in the galaxy. When the rebels landed on Kethmore, the humans were already waiting. "Target the weapon first," Hyojin ordered her team. "We need to make sure it can never be used against Earth." The battle on Kethmore was short and brutal. The rebels had expected to find an empty world. Instead, they found human soldiers who had been trained for exactly this kind of mission. Within an hour, the ancient weapon was destroyed and the rebel leaders were captured. Keth Mara faced Major Bai in the ruins of the weapon facility. "You don't understand," she said desperately. "The humans are becoming tyrants. You rule through fear." "We rule through strength," Hyojin replied. "The same strength your people forced us to use when you tried to destroy Earth. You created this situation. Now you live with the results." Dr. Sang-Min Yan studied the ancient weapon's remains, learning how it worked. He was the head of the Terran Science Division, responsible for making sure that humans always had the best technology in the galaxy. Interesting design, he told his team. We can improve on this. Imagine a weapon that could shut down enemy fleets without destroying them. It would make occupation much easier. This was the human way now. Every challenge became an opportunity. Every enemy weapon became a human weapon. Every defeat of their enemies made them stronger. The final rebel leaders were brought before President In-Ho John on Terra Station. They expected to be executed, but the president had other plans. You will return to your people, he told them. You will tell them exactly what happened here. You will explain that resistance is futile, but cooperation brings prosperity. It was a calculated mercy. The rebels would become living examples of human power. Their failure would discourage others from trying to fight against the hegemony. 10 years after the war began, Won Seok Kim stood before the first session of the new Galactic Assembly. He was young, barely 30, but he carried the authority of the most powerful empire in galactic history. My fellow sentients, he began, speaking to representatives from every species in the galaxy. We gather here not as conquerors and conquered, but as members of a new community. The assembly hall was smaller than the old council chamber, but it was more honest. Everyone knew who was in charge. There were no pretenses of equality or democracy. The humans ruled, and everyone else followed their laws. Some of you remember the old days. Won Seok continued. You remember when my people begged for acceptance, when we followed your rules and accepted your restrictions. You remember when we played nice. He paused, looking at the alien faces in the crowd. Many of them had been there 50 years ago when humans first joined the council. They looked older now, and much more careful. You feared us then because you knew what we were, Won Seok said. You knew that creatures from a death world could not really be as peaceful as we pretended, but instead of working with us, you chose to betray us. You forced us to become exactly what you feared. The hall was completely silent. Every alien in the room understood that they were hearing the final judgment of their old civilization. The result is the galaxy we have today, Won Seok continued. A galaxy where trade flows freely, where pirates and criminals are eliminated quickly, where every species knows exactly what is expected of them. It is not the galaxy any of us wanted, but it is the galaxy you created when you chose war over peace. An old Veltar representative stood up slowly. What of our children? He asked. What kind of future will they have under human rule? Won Seok's expression softened slightly. A better future than they would have had under the old council. We do not rule through corruption or favoritism. We do not allow the strong to prey on the weak. Your children will grow up in a galaxy where merit matters more than politics, where protection is guaranteed, and where cooperation is rewarded. It was true. The Terran hegemony was harsh but fair. Crime had almost disappeared. Trade was more profitable than ever. Wars between species were impossible because humans controlled all military forces. But understand this, Won Seok added, his voice growing hard again. This peace exists only because we choose to maintain it. We are still the same Deathworlders who conquered your fleets and occupied your worlds. We are still the apex predators who learned to hunt in the depths of space. He gestured to the viewing ports where human warships could be seen patrolling the space around Terra Station. The only difference is that we have chosen to use our strength to protect rather than destroy. But that choice can change if anyone threatens the peace we have built. As the assembly session ended, representatives from across the galaxy filed out quietly. They would return to their homeworlds with the same message. The humans were in charge and resistance was pointless. In the years that followed, alien children would learn human history in their schools. They would study the 50 years of peace, when humans tried to fit into galactic society. They would learn about the betrayal that forced humans to show their true nature. And they would understand that the galaxy was safer, richer, and more peaceful under human rule than it had ever been before. The humans had not wanted to rule the galaxy. They had been happy to be junior partners in a peaceful civilization. But when that option was taken away from them, they had done what Deathworlders do best. They had adapted, survived, and conquered. The galaxy had feared them playing nice. They had gotten exactly what they deserved when humans stopped being nice and became true Deathworlders instead. And in the end, even their former enemies had to admit that the monsters they had created were better rulers than the civilization they had replaced.